We were in negotiations.
Investing in real estate.
They're winning, they're making money.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Real Estate Educators Podcast, where we provide the education you can build on. I am your host, Kevin Amos. I am loving this podcast, you guys, because we're not only helping real estate investors, but also the real estate creation behind it. So if you're an influencer, if you're a content creator, or a real estate investor, this is the podcast for you. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you leave me a 5-star review. Oh, and share it with a friend. Speaking of friends, Martin, I'm so glad to have you on the show, man. I know you've grew up in a little bit of poverty, and you out in New York, and you became a successful investor. So I'm dying to hear the story. You've got your podcast, you got your YouTube channel, apartment syndications. You kind of got a nice little background here in real estate. So tell me a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, thank you, first of all, Kevin, for having me. It was a pleasure when you came on my podcast. So it was fun having you there. We had great conversations.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, so I grew up, I was born here, but like I like to say, I was made in Dominican Republic, but born here. My mother came pregnant here with me. I was the first generation born American in my family. When my mom came here with me, she had me, and then she had literally just gotten here. So she had me, she didn't really was established, work and things. She sent me back to Dominican Republic, and I lived there the first 5 years of my life. And as you know, the first 5 years of one's life are very pivotal to who you become. And living in Dominican Republic, we were very, very poor. And when I say poor, Kevin, I mean, I want your listeners to think of when you see the kids on TV that you donate money to, no shoes, no running water in our home. That was us. Where it rained, when it rained, we had to put pots because it was tin in Dominican Republic. Dominican Republic is known for its touristic Punta Cana and all these wonderful things that we have. We're second top most visited place in the world for tourists. But there's a really, really poor side to it. Right, I'm talking 45 years ago. I'm 45 years old. So I'm talking some time ago, before it was this as commercialized as it is today. And when it would rain, we would put pots because the sun would make these pinholes on the tin roofs from beating on it in the Caribbean, and make these little tiny pinholes. And we would have to move pots when it would rain and then take them out in the yard. In the morning, we would wake up. And I remember waking up with my grandma, walking half a block to go fill these 1 gallon, like gallons of milks, like the gallons of milk we see here today in the US, half a block to go get water. So we have water to brush our teeth, take a shower, and cook for the day. And then we had to boil the water because it wasn't healthy water to drink. So I share that because I want to give people a visual of, like, if a poor kid like me can do what I've done, anyone else can. Right, then I came to the US at the age of 5. My mom got us, and she was like, okay, time to come to where, the opportunity she wanted to create for us. And went to school here, grew up in New York City, Washington Heights. And my mother is drug-infested place, right? And then my mother, at the age of 16, on my 16th birthday, she kicked me out because I wanted to be acting crazy and doing things I wasn't supposed to. So I wasn't a bad kid. I just, single woman, say, trying to raise a man is hard. And in a poor neighborhood without a father figure, it's difficult. And I'm grateful for the experience today for my mother and what she did. So she put me out on my 16th birthday, and I remember sleeping in trains and rooftops in New York City, Rockaway Beach, and parks for a while. And I remember thinking, I never want to go through this pain ever, ever again. 16-year-old kid, right? And I made an unconscious decision that I was going to own a lot of real estate. I was going to have a lot of houses. So when I had a family, we'd never go through that again. I never experienced pain again.
You were thinking this at 16 years old?
I was thinking, it was an unconscious decision. So I was thinking, I realized as I was out there, 2 things I realized. I realized the importance of having shelter and the importance of food. Food and shelter, the 2 most important things for a human being. So I remember thinking the importance of man, how do I ever avoid this from this happening to me again? How do I ever avoid this from this happening to me again? So a lot of times we make unconscious decisions from pain. And that was a decision I made at 16. I realized that today, that the decision I made to go into real estate when I bought my first investment in 2007, I bought my first house at 20 and 21, my wife and I were, but I bought my first investment in 2007, was stemmed from that experience, because I never wanted to go through that ever again. So I bought my first, I was in the mortgage industry like you, and I think I shared that with you a little bit on my podcast.
Yeah, you did.
And I was in the mortgage business in 6, I went into business in 5, got out in 9 because of the crash. And I bought my first investment in 7, and I didn't know what I was doing. But I wanted to own real estate because, again, I didn't want to. At this point, I was 26 or 27. At this point, I was intentional. Like, I'm never going to go through that again. So I need to start buying real estate. And I had FOMO. 2005, you remember, everyone was buying. It was easy to give money. We were all giving money away. And I felt like I'm going to miss out if I don't get my piece. So I bought my first piece. 2 years later, I bought in 2007. 2 years later, 2009, I was $100,000 in the water. But the thing about that is that I did not know what I was doing. So I was playing Mr. Landlord. I was property manager, showing the properties, turning the properties. I was doing it all. So ironically, I learned to dislike real estate because of that experience, until I realized I needed a mentor, coach to teach me the business and to do it like a business. As you know, it's a crappy job if you're doing all of those. It's not that fun. You're doing all of that yourself. And so I learned a valuable lesson in that time, Kevin, and that was, that same property, I bought it in 7, in 9, it went it was $100,000 in the water. Last October in 20, we're in 23 and 22, I bought a quad not too far from here, not too far from that property. And the appraiser comes in my office and I'm like, hey, what are you bringing in this property I'm buying? He goes, I don't know yet. I'm going to go inspect it now. And he hands me a folder and there's comps in there. So I'm looking at the comps, and lo and behold, brother, 15 years to the day, right? About 14, 15 years to the day, I see a property 2 doors down from that first property I bought. I bought that property for $275. 2 years later, I had a realtor come out and tell me what I thought I could get for it. It was $179, practically $100,000 in the water within 2 years. And I was broke. I had a HELOC, coming off of the mortgage industry. Dodd-Frank killed the industry back then. You couldn't make money in 9, 10, 11, right? And I see this property just sold 2 doors down from there, $375,000, literally 2 doors down from my property. And it dawned on me, the old adage of don't wait to buy real estate and wait. Real estate is very forgiving in the long haul, right? And it was just right there. So here I am today. Today we're up to 130. It goes up and down because I flip some properties. I buy, I'll hold them for a few years and then sell them. We're up to 142 because we just acquired a 12 unit. We're in the middle of redeveloping that. So we're up to 142 doors, and that can fluctuate at any given point in time. We have 3 deals we're working on in flips right now. We're doing we play different things in the arena. We like to make money, as they say, Kevin. I like running a profitable business, brother.
And you've gotten good at that.
Yes. Over time, of course, with a lot of mistakes, a lot of pain, and still learning and still working on getting better every day.
What an incredible story this is. I had no idea. And we hung out a little bit on your show, and you got to know me more than you because you were the one asking the questions. But man, what an inspiring story. I'm so glad that you shared that with me. I'm confused on how the transition from I'm just trying to survive to meeting your wife, and then you're buying that first property, and then you're getting into the mortgage industry. How did that go down?
So I'm going to share a story with you, right? So when I met my wife, we were kids. I was 17, she was 18, and she was my boss. We used to work at a retail place called The Body Shop, and maybe your listeners are familiar, in Manhattan Mall in New York City. And I remember I got promoted to manager. She was manager. I got promoted to manager, and I got transferred to another store, which is in Harlem. I don't know if you're familiar with Harlem in New York City, 125th street, famous on the movies and all the stuff. I used to work right on 125th Street. And Harlem, it still has its rough areas. But at the time, it was really rough. We're talking mid 90s, right? 96, 97. And I remember a day my wife was coming to pick me up, my then girlfriend. And she comes to get me. It was on 125th and 5th Avenue. And I literally remember this. We both laugh about this today because we were kids, right? 17, 18. And I look outside, I point to this building to her, right? I point to this building that's directly across the street and I say, you see that building there? And it was a burned down apartment building. Literally, like you could see the suds, the smokes, everything just abandoned. So you see that building there? I said, if I can buy that building and fix it and then rent it, we'll be rich. I just don't know how to do it. I swear to you, this was the exact same words. I have to figure out how to do that. 17-year-old kid, because I had already learned that although we were poor, we always paid our rent. I remember looking at the owners of the apartment buildings in Harlem and Washington Heights in New York City, and they were all Hasidic Jews. So I used to have this limiting belief that, I have to save 20 or 30%, which is what we learned traditionally, to buy these buildings. So if a building's $2 million, how in the hell is a kid making $8 an hour how am I going to save $400,000 on a $2 million or $600,000 to buy that building and do it? So I would see these guys, these Jewish guys, come around and they'd be the owners. And I'm like, man, I couldn't relate. These guys don't look like me. And the irony, I'll share this because the irony of that is my accountant calls me about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, actually, 3 months ago, because I've owned this 12 unit for 3 months. Calls me 3 months ago. He says, Martin, I've been seeing, he does my taxes naturally, right? He says, I've been seeing you like growing. He sees my financials. I've been seeing you growing. I see what you're doing. And I have this group of guys. He's talked to me about them before. And they have really deep pockets and they're looking for an operator to invest their money. And I think you're ready. He tells me, I think you're ready. I've been watching you to introduce you to them, right? So I'm like, all right, cool. So I go meet with these guys. And they happen to be, I go to their house. We're all sitting, there's a group of them. I sit down with them. And they're asking me, where are you from? I kind of tell them New York City, where I grew up and things like that, where I'm at now. And they look at me and they go, where exactly in New York City you grew up? I said, Sherman Avenue and 207th Street, right? You want to be exact? Boom, I gave him the exact address. He says to me, we own about 10 buildings up there. We own a building a block over one way.
No way.
A block over one way. And dude, it was like, God is just so amazing. If you believe in God, I believe in God. So I say, God is so amazing how the same limiting belief that I used to have, now God has put those people in my circle to want to invest with me. Right? So we're doing our first deal. We're working on our first deal. We're working on a couple deals actually, where they're partnering with me. Right. So just I thought that was just really neat. And again, the glory is not
powerful.
God has just put those people in my life because I remember having those limitations of like, well, they don't look like me. Playing that victim card, right? Like, well, they don't look like me. So I can't do that because only those guys do it, right? It's young men.
And that stops a lot of people.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yes, so I think we agree on this one. You use God, I will too, because I'm a believer as well. But even if you're not, it's still the universe, right? If you set this intention, you can create whatever you want. I truly believe that and that's sort of what you did here, it sounds like.
Let me tell you, brother, I remember being in the trains, right? The night in the park, praying. And my prayer was obviously that I need a place to live. God, I need to find me a place. And God provided that for me. And I found a friend that allowed me to stay at his mother allowed me to stay in their house for a year. And I moved on from there and it worked out. But then I remember my prayer, a continuation of my prayer was, God, just put someone in my life that can teach me. I never wanted anyone handing anything to me. I wanted to earn it. I always, as a young person, knew that I just needed to learn so that I can go and create myself. Just put someone in my life to teach me so I can go and do. God, please, please put someone in. And God's put many people in my life since then that have taught me. Now, that's why I have my podcast, Kevin, is because I remember me praying and asking for that. And now I'm the guy that has the information. Now it's my responsibility to be the answer to that prayer for some. And I've coached people that are now millionaires. I've coached a guy a couple of years ago that now owns 25 doors, has a construction company. The guy was a truck driver. I remember him calling me from the truck. Martin, what am I doing? I'm like, go post on Craigslist, pull over, go post your post every day, post your post on Craigslist. And guys got a bunch of doors, and I'm just really proud of that because today I'm the resource. And again, it's not me, it's just, it was provided for me. God provided for me. Now it's my turn to provide it for others and give it back to others.
Yeah, that's great. So from living in a train to making millionaires.
Yeah,
so
that's a blessing, man. I'm blessed.
Oh, totally agree with you. And I was going to actually go here when you started talking about how you bought your first couple of properties and then the trouble you went through and the crash and all of that. I mean, not many people have gone through that like you and I have. But I hear a lot of people say, "Well, I'm self-made," or I came from nothing and now I created this. But it's not really like that simple, as there, Martin. You really do need a team around you and mentors. And so, who was maybe let's go to your very first mentor, your very first rich dad. Like, who was it that really helped launch this thing?
Well, I had many along the way, but as it pertains to real estate, I was at the tail end of my mortgage broker career. And I had that duplex, right? 8, 9, and I had that one duplex. And I bought a lead. As you remember, we used to buy these leads. There was a place we used to buy leads from back in the days when we were doing subprime loans. Anyways, I bought this lead that came in, and it was this guy named Jay Morales. And I called this guy and I met with him, and he wanted to refi. I saw money, right? I saw opportunities because he's like, I have these 4 or 5 properties, and I immediately jumped in my car, went to this guy's house, like, let's do this, right? And I started spending time with him, and he was a Verizon technician, and he lived in this great, big, beautiful house, and he owned about 30 doors, and I couldn't wrap my brain around it. Kevin, I couldn't wrap my brain around it. I was like, wait a minute, this guy's got a full-time job climbing on these poles, right? He's got this great, big, beautiful house. He's got 40 doors, 30, 40 doors in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area. How? Right?
Yeah.
How is he doing that? And I'm Mr. Entrepreneur, right? Mr. I own my mortgage company, Mr. I'm in real estate. And I'm frustrated, right, with this. And what I quickly realized was that he had systems. So one day he sends me this thing. He sends me the spreadsheet with how to analyze a deal. And I was clueless. And I was a mortgage broker, Kevin. He sent me this deal like, hey, this is the returns. And I was like, holy crap, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? I was like, and it started dawning on me then that it was like, this guy's got systems in place, and he's got things in place that allows him to go have his job and build this thing and have the life that he lives. And his plan was, I remember him telling me, I had a HELOC at the time. He was like, hey, Martin, why don't you take the 70,000 you got in your HELOC, let's invest it. But I was afraid. Fear was stopping me because we're going through this recession. I was in the midst of it as the broker. There was no business. There was no light for me. And I didn't invest with him. I was like, Martin, we could buy this. And I mean, stuff was on sale. I mean, you remember. I mean, this guy was buying stuff for 20 grand, triplexes. And I was like, and I was afraid, and I didn't take advantage of the opportunity, but I learned a lot from it. And when I started, and I realized I didn't take the action to invest with him or take my money and put it out because I was afraid, and that was my little cushion and my sense of security for my family. But I learned so much, and he was my first mentor. Like, okay, I need a mentor, I need a coach, I need systems. How do you do this? How do you manage this? How do you have a job and you're collecting rent, property managers. That's when I started learning. And I got to tell you, man, I still invest to this day, Kevin, a lot of money in my personal development. I still, at the end of this month, as we record this, we're in August 16th. And at the end of this month, I'm flying out for 3 days to Florida for an event. In October, I'm flying out to LA. Someone I interviewed on my podcast, he's going to have Kenny, what's his name? Kenny, real estate guys are going to be there. A bunch of guys that I follow, right? I'm flying out to LA to go spend 2 days with these guys, right? And
No, that's awesome.
So even to this day, I'm a learner in this business, and I like to be around guys like you, learning and just absorbing things, because things are changing, right? Things are changing, and they're always changing. AI is bringing a new mix, throwing a new thing into the mix. And if we're not I was just talking to my wife yesterday, and I said, honey, if I'm the smartest person in my circle, we were talking about my daughter and my kids and some of the mistakes we've made. Right? We don't have it all figured out. And I was like, if I'm the smartest person in my circle, the thing about it is this, that if I'm hanging out with people and they're lazy, at 4 people lazy, and they're not go-getters, what happens is I don't bring them up. They bring me down. I get lazy. So I have to constantly be hanging with people higher so that I go up intentionally. And that may sound a little bit rough for some people. Some people may take that difficult, but in the journey of growing and going, doing what I've done, Kevin, that's how I've done it. It's just being very intentional on who I'm spending time with.
I get into your podcast, your YouTube, and I also want to get into the syndications and things that you're doing. But I got to ask you a real selfish question here first, because you have kids. I have kids. Neither one of us grew up with a lot of money, you especially. And now you have it. Now you could provide. And I'm struggling with this. Like, how do I teach the mindset to my kids to want to go out and be successful and not just have everything given to them? Is there like some strategy that you're implementing, or how are you doing this?
Brother, this is such a deep question, man.
I know.
Just talk man to man here. Let the listeners just listen to it, right? Just man to man, father, right? Just man to man. I got to tell you, man, here's the thing about this question. It's a really deep question. And it's been in my orbit a lot over the last week. I got my little brother picks up. He has his firstborn. His first child is 1.5. He calls me last week and he asks me the exact same question. My oldest is 27. And I'm like, dude, I got to think about that. I got to get back to you. And then just this morning, as we record this podcast, I'm in my bed with my wife. As I'm getting dressed, she's on the bed and I'm getting dressed. And I'm like, and we're having this very same discussion. And I got to tell you, that's a tough question, because I'm so grateful for the experiences and the struggles. Today, I'm grateful because it's made me grateful. It's made me who I am. It's made me resourceful. And it's tough because as a father, we want to give what's best for our children. And sometimes are we handicapping our children? And going back to the statement I was making to you earlier about we are with the people we hang out with, I was referencing my daughter there. We've given our kids so many opportunities, right? And they're doing well. I mean, these kids have thousands of dollars in their accounts because we've given them opportunities, right, to invest in things. But I can tell you some of the things I've done, right? One of the things I did, one day I come home and we used to have a pool in the house, and we have this nice house and great life, and I'm blessed and I'm grateful. And the kids they have all of these games and all of these wonderful things, like I'm sure your kids have as well.
Yep.
The best we can. And I'm like, dude, what is happening here? Am I taking away their grit? Am I taking away their ambition? Am I hurting them? And I remember at that time in the office, I was renting office space. And one of my mentors that came along in my journey was the owner of the building where I was renting my office space. And Kathy is one of the biggest investors in my small town. She owns 189 units, all paid off. She's been in business for 40 years. She knows a lot. She knows more about real estate than she's forgotten more than I know. That's how much she knows, right? And at the time, I remember Kathy having a struggle with the building, having people coming to clean the building. And it dawned on me. I picked up the phone and I called Kathy and I said, hey, Kathy, I had this idea. Can I be the cleaner for your buildings? Can I and my kids, because I want to teach my kids, can I just start a small company just so I could? And I did that. And we started this company and I said, okay, guys, we're going to employ you. Kathy's going to employ you. But here's the deal. You're going to come clean the offices. You're going to come clean the toilets. You're going to mop on, we used to go on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Wednesday, middle of the week, weekend to the week, it was clean. And my oldest son bought his first car with that money he saved. My second also bought his first car. And when he went off to college, and then my daughter, all three of my oldest bought their first cars with that money. But I got to tell you, brother, that's a heavy question. I did the best I could. I think because I'm, we do these things and we won't see the results 20, 30 years until later when they are telling us this thing worked, Dad, Mom, that's when they're going to tell us what you did taught us this lessons. What I could tell you is that, we go on a lot of vacations, we do resorts, we do different things. We like to travel as a family. And I do notice a certain humility with them when we're around the cleaning people. They treat them with respect. They're very nice because they remember.
Yeah, they were there.
They remember what it was like. And I think that was the whole point. I think that was the whole point. But man, I got to tell you, we still struggle, dude. Kevin, it's still a struggle.
Tough.
Dude, it's still struggle, man. How do you deal with it? What are your thoughts on that? Tell me, please, because it's just one I've been grappling with as a father.
Well, I love what you did with the cleaning. So I struggle with it, man, because they have pretty much everything they want, and we do the traveling and everything, and I don't really go cheap on that. The experiences, what I'm trying to do is limit their material stuff, so they get really small Christmas and birthday gifts and that kind of thing, but we're surrounded by people that just shower them with everything they want. So that's why I was asking the question, because I really do struggle with it. Almost all of our friends buy their kids cars. So one thing we're doing is we're not doing that. That's very much like you are. You have to save for it. You have to earn it. We have a community car in the house that you all can use. But if it's not available, you can't have it. Right. So that's hopefully enough to get them to go out and buy their own. Now, the ages are different. I'm a blended family with 5 kids, 13 to 17. So we're coming up on the first car purchase now. And they're all working. So I think I'm hoping that we're doing it right, but it's just not easy, man. And they complain about stuff that I would never complain about growing up. Like a chore, you know what I mean? Like, do your dishes. Like, Jesus.
It's tough, man, because like my prayers were, God, show me someone. And yet here you and I are the ones that can show our kids. And look, some people might be listening and saying, oh, that's some could look at us and say that's rich people problem. Be what it may. Like, you and I both come from nothing, and we work hard, and everyone, I think intuitively, everyone wants to do better for their kids. It doesn't matter, right? And just intuitively, we want to provide better for our kids. It's just, when is the line that when it's hurting them or it's good for them?
That's right. That's so hard. It's so foggy.
I was telling my wife this morning, I was like, hon, I said, we were 20 and 21. We were 20 and 21, and we had our house. We had our first house. We bought our first house with her mother's help, gave us a down payment. I was selling insurance at the time. And I remember selling insurance, wasn't making enough money, taking another job at night, because I saw that I wasn't going to drop my career, right? Taking a job at Home Depot at night as a security guard with a 24-hour Home Depot in New York City. It's a security guard just to make the mortgage payments. I remember breaking our kids' piggy banks to make our mortgage payments. We talk about interest rates. I think I mentioned this to you. That house I bought was a 9.75% interest rate in 2000, right, in the year 2000. And I remember breaking the kids' piggy bank that my wife's mother had for the kids. She would put money in there every week when she got paid. And we had no choice. I had to break it just to make the mortgage payments. And I was like, "Hun, what did that teach us? Let's just go back in time a little bit. What did that teach us? It wasn't fun and it was very painful. But what did it teach us? Did it teach us to be resourceful? So what are we teaching our kids?" So now the question is, I have this child, this adult child here, and it's like, how are we helping them? Because a little bit of struggle helps build character. I don't think kids fall, but a little bit of struggle helps, Kevin. It just does. A little bit of,
and it's hard to watch.
You got to figure this out, but as a parent, you got to put. And we had to have a conversation this morning. Was like, "Oh, no more. Like, we got to pull back." As hard as that's gonna be for us, because we're hurting our kids. We're gonna get old. Babe, we're gonna get old, and when we get old, it's like we can't, right? Like, we gotta let them struggle a little bit, and we're not gonna let them fall, right? But we gotta let them. You gotta go, man. You gotta go
figure it out,
just like we did.
The Real Estate Educators Podcast is brought to you by Pine Financial Group. Pine Financial Group is a private lender specializing in value-add bridge lending for real estate investors. This is accomplished by raising private money from individual investors and lending that money out in short-term real estate loans. Pine operates one of the coolest public mortgage funds on the market because it brings consistency and security to your investment portfolio without giving up on returns. The fund pays its investors a flat 8% return with monthly distributions. There is a low minimum investment and no lockup period. That's right, you can request all of your money back at any time without any fees. Diversify your portfolio out of Wall Street and into Main Street with the Pine Financial Group Public Fund PFG Fund 5. Find out more at pinefinancialgroup.com. That's pinefinancialgroup.com.
Cool. Well, let's get back onto you for a second here. Let's talk about your YouTube channel. So for us, we have a YouTube channel as well, and we post this and another video. So 2 videos every week. Tell me how you do your YouTube, and is it different than your podcast?
Yeah, it's very different for us. So look, our YouTube is okay, right? It's tough, man. YouTube is not as easy as
it is tough.
It's not that easy, right? Like, it's not, people may look and think, see my following on Instagram. So we're doing good there. And then YouTube, I think I just cracked 1,000, right? Like, it's tough. I think
really tough.
Yeah. The thing is definitely different. Algorithms are different. I think the most important thing for us, the way we've gotten success, is because we're very clear on our intentions on how and why we're using social media. So Tony Robbins, I've learned from Tony Robbins years ago that clarity is power. And the first, I think, most important thing is having clarity on what it is that you want these tools to do. When you remember, we're both old enough to remember when the internet first came on the scene.
Yeah.
Social media first came on the scene. I remember MySpace. I had the mortgage company back in, 2003, was the real first social media was MySpace. And then Facebook, I remember when Facebook came out, and I'm dating myself here, but it is what it is. It's, if you don't have the maturity, I'm going to say the maturity to understand how to manage this. I got off social media because I didn't know, like, we got hit with this thing, and it was like always on this thing. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. This is not healthy. This is not working. And I'm not going to do this. And then I got clear on how I was going to use it. Then I got really clear, like, okay, if I don't use social media, I'm going to be a dinosaur and I'm going to be extinct.
Right.
So we got really clear. I got a great team. I got to tell you that. We got a great team. We got really clear. Okay, what are we going to do? And what are we going to use it for? Is this thing of money? Who am I on social media? Right. So I think that's the first thing you got to figure out. It's like, for us, it was like, who are we on social media? What do we want this thing to do for us? So for me in my business, I use social media as a credibility tool. That makes sense.
Okay. Yep.
As a credibility tool. So, okay, so now I go to these guys I met, told you a few months ago, sat down with them, one meeting. Of course, they loved me. I love them. We're a good match. I'm highly recommended from both of our CPAs. We have the same CPA. These guys have a ton of, they have a lot of money. And but what was the thing that they did? It was the first line of defense, where they went online and they researched me. They went online and they researched. So when I have investors that I'm doing a deal and I'm presenting a deal to them, people do their research. We know this. People go on Google to look up.
We do it.
Those things, people, we look people up.
Yeah.
So by the time they get to meet me in person, it's like, yeah, Martin, we know you're credible. I heard this, I heard your credible podcast here. I saw your video with this. I saw your project there. I saw this here. I saw this there. It makes my life a lot easier. So I don't, there's some people that use social media to monetize it. I'm an influencer, I'm famous. I'm doing this because YouTube is making me millions. I haven't seen a penny from YouTube. Single penny directly from YouTube, but I can tell you I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars because of YouTube, if that makes sense.
Me too. Yep.
Because people have sat down. I've lost deals. I'll give you another example, because I'm so honest on there. I'm real. And a lot of times I'm teaching, right? I'm teaching others. I want to help others. So I had a property I bought, and my team tends to dramatize things too, right? So I record it, I send it to them, they do their thing, they edit, they put it, and they put it out. So in this particular property, this was a lesson I learned too. I had this property, and then I was like, do I want to keep this one, or do I just want to flip it, right? I bought it, and I was like, you know what? If I make $250,000 on this deal and I just flip it now, which I probably can because I got the drawings, the architectural drawings, I got all this stuff approved already, that's worth $250, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I called my realtor, I said, hey, go show it. You got a buyer, go show it. Buyer comes back, sends my realtor a video, says, I'm not buying this because I think I was doing the walkthrough I had a video of the walkthrough with the fire department, because it was a condemned building, with the fire department and the inspector. And the fire department said that they wanted us to put a fire system that communicates with them directly, right? So my team, they said they thought that's what they weren't sure. The fire department wasn't 100% sure. They were like, you got to talk to the zoning officer, but I think that's what they're going to require for a building this size. So my team, what they did was they dramatized it and they ended it there. So the potential buyer went and researched me, says, hey, I found this. I'm not interested in this building. Look at this. So he bought into the drama and didn't actually ask the questions.
But anyway, you probably got a lot of views.
Yeah, correct. The team dramatized it, but it is what it is. And the other hand, that same video, an investor can look at it, right, and say, yeah, Mark, this guy just knows what he's doing, right? He's doing deals. Here's a perfect example of it. Yeah, I'll invest my money. I also I'll tell you this other story. There's a 20-unit apartment building we're buying right now. And the seller off market, the seller agreed to sell it to us, right? We're buying it for $950. We're going to put about $450 into it. And the pro forma numbers in 18 months, once we fix it and value add it, is going to be about 2.7 million. The seller agreed to sell it to us after he went online, researched me, and saw all of my content and said, yeah, we'll sell it to him because I know he's a real deal. We did our due diligence. We know he can close.
That's huge, man.
Yeah, dude. So while some may think, if you're a business owner, if you're in real estate, you need to be putting content out there. because you're going to lose to guys like me and Kevin all day long. If you're out there and you're not putting some sort of content out, and someone researches you and you're going up against Kevin, they find nothing on you because you want to be the silent king, and they find all the stuff Kevin is doing and all the people he's talking to and all the connections he's got and all this stuff, they're going to feel more comfortable with Kevin.
Yeah, I totally agree. And interesting about YouTube, we started to monetize on the channel, but not to make money on it. I've heard, and you tell me if you've heard this, if you monetize on YouTube, the algorithm or whatever will bump you to a suggested video because they make money on those videos. So
Yes.
we only did that to try to get a higher suggestion. But you're right, there's no money in actual YouTube videos.
Brother, I can't support my family with that. Now I know guys,
No.
a percentage of people making a ton of money on YouTube, and I know I'm not poo-pooing on them. That's great. If I can get to that level, doing what I'm doing naturally, that'll be awesome. However, if I continue to get deals and I can make $1 million upside on a deal in 12 months,
That's where the money's at.
if I get a deal where I can flip and make 100,000 because of some YouTube videos I've made, oh man, honestly, that's worth more to me than making money on YouTube. I'm gonna tell you why. The obvious for you and I is the obvious, right? Owning a real building, real estate that's mine in my name, that I have full control in real life, not the digital world, is far more valuable to me than earning $2,000 or $3,000 on YouTube, and then YouTube can decide they want to change their rules tomorrow and demonetize me or give me a strike and all that. I'm going to take real life, real assets all day long, then I'll be dependent on YouTube. Not poo-pooing on YouTube, love it. If I could make $1 million on YouTube, I'll take it, brother. Don't get me wrong. However, I'm good. The way we're doing it's working for us. It's making us money in that way.
Yeah, I love it. Credibility for sure. And you get to help people. I get calls all the time. I made X amount of dollars because of this one thing I learned. Man, that makes me feel so good. So
yeah.
Let's talk about your podcast. So do you post your podcast videos on YouTube? I didn't see that.
My team does post it on YouTube. Actually, our podcast is going to be, I think, goes live on Monday. They told me today, which is August, today the 16th. So there's still some days.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know, 22nd. So that goes live next week. Yes, we posted on YouTube. We posted everywhere, right? On Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram. On Instagram, we have a large following. We got 132,000, I think, following on YouTube, on Instagram. And we're impacting a lot of people there. We're really helping a lot of people there and sharing with a lot of people. I got a bunch of DMs, people were just, asking questions. That's the challenge. The other side to that is like, hey, I'm a real operator. So people see I have a team behind me. That's the thing. Like, I have a team behind me. I'm not personally putting all of these things up. So I have staff that just runs this stuff for us. And so a lot of people think that, hey, how can I talk to you? Can I get a, it's not that simple, because I'm a real operator. I'm not a pretender. And then there's a lot of those online, as you know. I'm not a pretender. I'm a real operator doing real things. You see my videos. You see me taking the scars. We're doing a 5-unit fire property right now that we bought a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And we're going to be $40,000 over budget, right? And I'm sharing that with the audience, saying, hey, guys, I underestimated this, but because we bought it so right, and I added this closet to this room, and I added this wall, and I turned 2 apartments from 1 bedroom to 2 bedrooms, we now forced the rents by $200, which is $4,800 times, divided by an 8 cap gives us $60,000 in value. So we bought it right, and we're doing the right things to get the right value. Saves us, right? So if I'm spending 40 over budget, but these 2 closets I added and these walls I added, these 2 rooms I added is giving me 60, I'm still up a net 20. And, so I'm teaching these things. I'm a real operator. Like, I'm really doing this stuff. This is not some guy, and you see them on YouTube too. Listen, Kevin, let's be honest. You've seen those videos with those guys that they open their mouth, and within a minute, that they don't have much experience. Because we have the scars from 2009, 2008, right? We have the scars, right?
Most people haven't been through that. It's like, you guys, it's been pretty great since that time. Everyone's made money since then.
Yes. Like, hey, man, I had a HELOC where I was $70,000 on the water. I have 4 little kids at the time. My oldest at the time was 12, 11, 12, 4 kids, 1 breadwinner. Dude, like, it was tough. It was tough. You would talk to me about, you talk to me about scars, man. I got my scars. Got my scars. That's why I share my wife and I. When we talk, I'm like, hun, I'm not ashamed for my success because no one knows what we've been through. Like, no one, only you and I know when I ruined my suit holding the light for our first flip. So my first flip I did, it was February. So here in the Pocono, it gets really cold in February in Pennsylvania. And I had one day I was going to a meeting, and we wear black and white suits to go to our meetings. And we had this really weird day where it hit like 60, 65 in February, like 2 days. And we needed to paint the exterior of this property, and paint doesn't dry unless it's 55 degrees or higher, exterior paint. And we had this one day, and I was like, shit, it's 55. Let's paint. So I called the contractor, literally, Kevin. I called the contractor. I said, hey, dude, let's paint. I'm going to go pick up the paint. Benjamin Moore, I'll be up there. Get the painter. Tell him to meet me now. Wintertime, February, remember, 4 o'clock is dark, right? 4 o'clock. This is like 1 o'clock. So I'm running in my suit, right? Black, white suit. Now, it had ice and snowed like the week before. So the whole place was muddy. Now it hit 60 and it's all mud, right? I run up there, and by the time I get there and the painter gets there, it's dark. So I'm literally, Kevin, holding the light while the painter's spraying. My suit's muddy, my shoes are muddy, but I was so committed to getting that deal done because I was going to make $60,000 on that deal. And that $60,000 was going to pay about $40,000 I had in credit cards. And I didn't care if I had to sleep in that mud, right, to pay off those credit cards to get this thing done. I did not care. So I share this with you because, I share this with my wife, and it's like, only I know that. Only you know that. Only we know that when it was raining and I was out there because the contractors left a bunch of garbage and I needed the project done, and I was in the rain getting wet, putting all the garbage dirty, and I came home, messed up coat, messed up jeans, messed up boots. Only you and I know that. So people look at me today and they think, oh, well, we're talking about these things with our kids, and people may think that's rich people problem, but you don't know.
Right.
What I went through the backside.
So it's like I'm bringing 2 pieces together that you said here, Martin. One is who you hang out with is super important, and the other is being ashamed of the wealth that you've created or the success that you've had. I feel when I hear you say those 2 things, if you're feeling ashamed at making money, you're hanging out with the wrong group. Yeah. They should be your biggest cheerleaders, right? So I guess for a listener out here, that's one huge takeaway for me, listening to you.
Yeah, 100, man. Again, I told you I'm very intentional on who I spend time with. I'll share this other thing with you. Again, this might come a little bit weird for some folks. I literally a couple weeks ago went to, we bought a property. I bought a property in this community and it was a hidden gem. I had no idea about this community. It's a gated community. I'm not typically a big fan of gated communities, but I went in this one and I was like, hey, this is a nice community. I was like, man, maybe we should keep this one, right? Not flip it. We're gonna flip it. I was like, maybe we should keep this one. And we thought about it, but I was like, no, I'm gonna sell it. And so one day while they started, this was a month ago. I bought this, I owned this not even a month. So a week into owning it, I'm like, I'm gonna take my bike on a Tuesday or something. I'm gonna take my bicycle and just because they have a bike trail, they have beaches. This is a really cool community. I'm gonna take my bike. I'm an owner, so I'm gonna go and get to know the community. And I ran into a private, what you call these, golf course, but oh shoot, those things, those places you pay to be a member.
Country club?
Country club inside of the community, but it's private. So I remember years ago listening to Jim Rohn. I don't know if you're familiar with Jim Rohn. I remember Jim Rohn saying years ago, something I took away from something that really stood with me. And Jim Rohn said in one of his speeches, he said, you are the people you hang out with, right? And where do rich people hang out? If you want to be rich, hang out with rich people. I'm like, well, I'm poor. Well, how the hell how do you get to be around rich people? Like my friends are all broke, right? Working in warehouses and stuff like that. So he said in the speech, he was saying, go to your local country club. And you may not know someone, but there's a country club close by. Go and have lunch there regularly. Just sit there, even if it's by yourself, because you start to be around the energy of people with wealth. Eventually, you're going to get to know some of the people. You're going to get to know the bartender. And man, as I was riding my bike, this came to me. That very same thing. I took my bike in. It's a private, beautiful country club. Went in there, took a tour. Man, and after taking the tour, talking to the lady, I can today afford to do things like that. After taking the tour, I learned something about, and I have a lot of wealthy friends. I learned something about rich people. And it's like, this is why these country clubs exist. And one of the things I learned is it becomes a community of like people where they can speak freely. They can speak freely. So you and I could be by the pool playing golf, and it's like, hey, Kev, you know what, man? I got a question for you. I'm doing this deal. I want to get your thoughts on it. I can make $1 million if I sell it in 6 months, or I can make 3 million if I hold it. But if I make 3 million, I got to go through all of these things, and I got to go through all this brain damage and all this stress. And it becomes and Kevin, on the other hand, is talking to me like, hey, no big deal. We're just talking about millions and we're talking about deals. And it's like, it's normal for them. It's normal for us to be in that environment talking about that. And the thing is, when you are around the incorrect group, you cannot talk freely about numbers like that. Does that make sense, Kevin? And that was the one biggest takeaway I took from there. Spending time there. I met a bunch of the people there. They were all warm, welcoming. Come join us. Love to have you. I mean, I met a lady that the minute I met her, she was playing tennis. Ina is her name. And she goes to me, what do you do? I was like, well, I'm a real estate investor. I buy apartment buildings, I hold them, I rentals, and I buy properties, and I also flip them. I bought a flip in here. That's how I discovered this. And she was like, well, I flip too. She tells me, right? She was like, I'm a flipper. I go, awesome. We need to connect, because sometimes we find deals we don't want to do, or we don't have the bandwidth, and my guys are too busy, and we just want to wholesale them, right, to someone else. So maybe I could put you on my buyers list. She goes, yeah, but I only flip inside this community, right? That's her niche, just inside this community. She goes, did you see the dumpster that was right outside the community? I was like, yeah, I almost pulled over because we couldn't find a dumpster. My dumpster company wouldn't come up this far. I almost pulled over to grab the phone number that's on the dumpster. She was like, that's my property. I'm flipping that one. So just like that, right? This is what I'm talking about. Just like that, in this environment, deals are happening. She's like, listen, call me. She gave me her number. Call me because I have a bunch of contractors. Actually, the guy that owns the guy that owns the dumpster company is a member of the club. And he owns a bunch of other things, electrical company, this and that. So it's just, I understand now. Like, I understand you can be there comfortably talking about big deals, and you could talk about certain things freely without others secretly judging you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and sometimes it's good to get advice from people, and you need to be able to speak openly. So I'm going to do a really epic trip. We're going to Africa to climb Kilimanjaro. There's going to be about 20 of us, and I feel like I have a pretty good balance sheet, but it's small compared to this group. So I'm going to be kind of at the lower level of the 20-ish people that are going to be climbing this mountain for 7 days. And so that's exactly what you're talking about. That's the people I want to be around. And it's just joining the right group. So I'm not a member of a country club or anything like that, but I am members of groups of people that have qualifications to get into it, and a little higher standard. Sometimes it's monetary. So if you're willing to pay 30 or 35 grand a year to be part of a group, that's going to separate out a lot of the people that aren't serious, So yeah, I'm totally with you. I'm doing that hike with these guys. I just hiked another mountain with about half of them. So, and we just talk about real estate all day, right? I mean, that's what we all want to do.
You know what, Kevin? You know what else, man? Is that people, and this is for your listeners, right, and your viewers, like, hey, man, people want to do business with people they like, and I guarantee you, I almost guarantee you, when you're going up that mountain with those guys, when you're hanging with these guys, you guys are talking about the stuff we're talking about. You're talking
exactly
about,
right.
How do you deal with this stuff with my kids? How are you managing that? Like, we're talking about men, regular guy. Hey, man, my wife is giving me shit about this today. How are you dealing with that with your lady, right? Like, I'm dealing with this stuff with my kid, or I'm dealing with this stuff at the office, or I'm dealing with one staff here. You're just talking, or, regular human to human, and people want to do business with people they like. And I said this to my business partner. I said, she was like, "Are you going to join the country club?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm really considering. I haven't joined yet." I was like, "I'm really considering doing it." And I said this to her. I said, it's just because I just want to be around good people where I'm comfortable, they're comfortable, like it's comfortable, and it's just leveling up the circle.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's just about making friends, man. It's just, to me, it's just about just connecting with people. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm gonna just connect with people, money or no money. It'd be nice to connect with people that are doing better than me, that they can help, that I can go to them for like advice on some of my things and my investments, or say, hey, they're better connected than me, that I could be like, hey, I'm stuck here with this project. I need a new developer, or I need a developer, or I need an electrician, or I have this deal here, and any thoughts. Like, it'd be awesome to have a network like that, wouldn't it? to go to
Yes.
they're smarter than you. So yeah, I'm going to be intentional about that.
Yeah, good for you. We got to wrap up here, but I got a couple more for you. I ask everybody this, and I get chills every time I do it. Tell me, what's real estate done for you?
Life changer. Changed my life in a positive way, in an absolute positive way. I was just telling my wife this morning. I said, like we were talking earlier, I said, babe, we're in a place today that we could do the things we want when we want. We're not like, oh my gosh, we're not Warren Buffett or anything, but we're free. We're free. We can, if I stop working today, if I stop coming to the office and stop buying houses, we're fine. We're going to be perfectly fine. I said, but we earned this, right? We worked hard for this. We've worked hard for this. Still working hard. I'm still building this thing. So it's been life-changing for us. Absolutely.
All right, so let's see if there's some synergy here. How can you help our viewers, our listeners? How can they help you? What are you looking for?
For me, for the way I can help your viewers is, man, if you just take anything I shared with you here today, anything I shared with you, and go change your life. The purpose of my life, like I shared with you, in my podcast is to empower others to be better version of themselves, as well as me become a better version of myself. And if I can do that by a word, something they heard here, if them knowing, that a kid from nothing with no running water, the first 5 years of his life, can get to where I am today, to 142 apartments. And if I can do that, so can you. And that's my message to your listeners is like, hey man, wherever you are today, whatever you're doing, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling, just start learning, start getting around the right people. Guys, that's everything. You listening to the right people, spending time with the right people. Kevin has an event, attend his events, listen to this podcast, continue to listen to guys like Kevin. If you want to have the problem Kevin has, hey, how do I create an environment where my kids don't have a lot? That's a positive problem to have, in my opinion. That's a great problem to have. Then you need to be spending time with Kevin. You need to be listening to Kevin. And that's how I want to contribute to people, and how people can contribute to me, to us is, hey man, just check out my podcast, Latinos in Real Estate Investing Podcast. Go there. I'm constantly giving value there. And if you know of anyone that wants to sell a distressed apartment building, because that's what we want to buy. We want to buy a value add or apartment building. Please reach out to us. We're on all the social media, Martin Perdomo, the Elite Strategist. Just look me up. You'll find me. When you look up my name, Martin Perdomo, I'm dominate Google.
We're going to put all that in the show notes. Make sure we have some links. I was able to get your links here for me to share with the audience. So I'll definitely do that. I could seriously sit here for another couple hours and just pick
yeah, brother. Me too, man.
And
just kind of kick it with you here, man. Absolutely.
I enjoyed this thoroughly, man. I really appreciate you coming on. We'll have to do it again. So we'll get everything in the show notes. Appreciate you. And with that, it's Kevin A. Moss, and we're going to see you next week.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please be sure to follow and leave us a review. Oh yeah, and tell a friend.